This is Let Your Voice Be Heard, right here on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem.
So we are back on Let Your Voice Be Heard on 90.3 FM, WHCR, the voice of Harlem, and we are here talking about politics, and we get a chance to talk about the Socialist Party today. I'm just kidding. The Democratic Party.
Really?
Yes.
I wish.
Definitely not the Socialist
Exactly.
Yes,
Party.
yes. So for the last 6 years, we have had the rapper Daquan Barack Obama Hussein as a president, but the socialist Kenyan is almost out of office, and we will have someone new, hopefully a strong white man, the way it should be. So we're going to be talking about I'm not going to tell you what I just saw in the studio, but what everyone's been talking about, at least for the Democratic side, is Hillary Clinton. With the Republicans, they have all sorts of people. They had the president of the KKK, the vice president of the KKK, the secretary of the KKK.
Don't talk about his party
and
like that.
George Zimmerman running for office.
Really? There's like 17 Republicans running for office, and
Yes.
it's because they're all addicted to coke. But we're not here to talk about Republicans today.
So go ahead, Jason. What were you going to say about the KKK?
I you know what?
Is that true, Jason?
Yes.
To my knowledge, none of the leading candidates are members or have ever been members of the KKK. Though the Democratic Party had a very long-serving senator who was a member of the KKK.
This is very true.
Robert Byrd.
Yes, that's true. But that's also when the Democrats were still the
Republicans.
Yeah, the Republicans. And that was before the switch, which happened because LBJ signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and
LeBron
he
James
said
did that?
he was going to lose the Democrats, the Southern Democrats, forever. And he said, I will lose the South, and he did.
Yep.
And then there was a flip. And so that's why, I hate when when people say that. Like, I know you were saying it jokingly and you actually know the history, but I get in debates with people online about that, and I'll be like, that's the Democrats that you're talking about are today's Republicans.
Yeah. But you know what you don't know, Alyssa? Democrats are stupid.
Yeah,
and you know why? Because. So, getting back to the topic, guys, the Republicans have all sorts of racist and sexist and homophobes running for office. At least 25 racists running for office and 2 homophobes and 1 libertarian. And the Democratic Party, we're not really sure who it is after Hillary Clinton. Very similar to what was going on in 2008 when Hillary Clinton pretty much sucked the air out of the water until some black guy stole her purse. His name is Barack Obama, by the way, in case you guys don't know. So what we're doing this show on this segment is to discuss the other potential candidates who will run for office and maybe someone who can steal her purse the way Hussein did it to her in 2008.
Oh,
But
God.
then also you have to consider a really important thing, which is, are any of the other candidates that may steal her purse, so to speak, as you put it,
Or Thunder.
are they going to be able to beat whoever the Republican nominee is? Because I have gotten into this argument with many, many people, and I have essentially said, Hillary isn't my first choice for the primary. However, if she's the nominee, I am going to vote for her, because I'll be damned before I throw my vote away, essentially, to the Republican Party.
Stupid
and
liberals.
do a Ralph Nader did in 2000, and essentially hand them the election on a silver platter.
I just want to punch all those idiot, I'm going to vote for Nader because it matters. I want to punch them all in the ear for that.
And then the other question becomes, which is, even at the primary level, if the Democrats vote for somebody that's not Hillary, is the person that the Democrats nominate for the general election to go against the Republican, are they going to be able to beat them? Because if you look at the polls right now, Hillary has a double-digit polling lead on any single Republican that's running.
Here's what we need to talk about, guys, and I've learned this lesson, especially from working with Jason. It doesn't matter what's happening in the offseason. And that's pretty much what's happening. Like in baseball or basketball or football, you can have a great team on paper, and everyone's like, wait till the season starts. They're going to kick butt. The Los Angeles Lakers in 2004 with that team were great on paper. They had Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Karl Malone, Gary Payton. 4 Hall of Famers on one team. You know what they did? They lost in the NBA Finals to a no-name Detroit Pistons. So it doesn't mean anything. Hillary Clinton, same thing, was a juggernaut from 2006 until 2008. Then Barack Obama came and altered Kofi, because what wins presidential elections is a strong campaign, a lot of luck, smart media choices, and gas from other people. And if you have a strong team and you have a plan and you make a couple of good speeches and you know what you're doing, you can win. Hillary is the juggernaut now because that's all anyone knows, and she has name recognition. And that's really what's been pushing her right now. And if you guys want to call in, the number is 212-650-6903. But I really don't want to talk you guys' ears off. I want to get into the candidates that we have on the table. We have a couple of them, but I want to talk about some people you have heard of or may not have heard of. And we're going to start off with Joe Biden. So Joe Biden, if you guys did not know, is the vice president of the United States and also my favorite politician because I feel like he'd be fun to get, hang out and just chill with and have a drink. That good old American standard. He ran for president in 2008 and he lost very early on. And he also ran for president in the 80s and he probably would have won if he didn't say something stupid, which he's been known to do for all of his life. He's thinking about running again. I think he's a little bit older than Hillary Clinton, and if she was not in the picture, he might be the front runner, especially because of the way the economy has been perceived to rebound since the Great Recession. So, Joe Biden. Jason, I want to go with you first.
No, you know what? I'm going to bring the guns out. Joe Biden is a clown, man. There's no way Joe Biden could be seriously taken as a presidential nominee. He couldn't be taken. He's not even seriously taken as a vice presidential, seat, carrier, seat holder currently. I mean, he's loudmouth. He's crass. And I'll tell you, that's a part of the strategy that they wanted. Democratic Party wanted in order to balance out cool, calm Obama. They wanted somebody who's very passionate, very, speaks to the hoi polloi. And that's what Joe Biden does. But as far as being presidential, absolutely not. There's no way. I can't see that happening.
I have to agree with Jason there. I really like Joe Biden. I think he's fun and he's charismatic. And I actually think he's really, really smart. But I just don't see him as a viable candidate, especially because, I don't know, just because he's too friendly and gaffy.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think he, like I said, I really like him as the VP, but I don't think he possesses the kind of leadership qualities that are needed to be president or to even compete against the Republican field.
Well, yeah. 100%. I agree that Joe Biden is definitely gaffe prone, but come on, admit you guys would love to see him in another debate, just like he did with Paul Ryan, and it was laugh out loud funny. Like, he just kept laughing and dismissing everything Paul Ryan said, and it was so good. There were memes for days.
Yeah,
that's one of the reasons why I like Joe Biden as a person and as a politician, because I think he's relatable. I don't think that he's so stringent and straightforward. I think he says sometimes he says what everybody else was thinking, like Obamacare was a big blanking deal, right? So, I mean, I like Joe Biden.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but we're not voting for funniest. Right. This is not America's Funniest Home Videos. This is the 2016 presidential
If we were going by
election.
that standard, then we should have voted for Herman Cain because I thought he was hilarious.
Yeah, 999.
Call me cornbread. So, guys.
Get some pizzas.
Oh, shuck and ducky now.
He did say that.
So, guys, we have a caller on the air. This is Dr. Brother Omar from the Big Mango in Harlem. He is calling to let his voice be heard. What he has to say may be a shocker. Brace yourselves.
Hello.
Hello, Brother Omar. The floor is yours.
Yes, good morning to you and your panel. And this is one of my favorite shows on the radio dial.
That's right.
I'm going to be honest with you. Most of the major candidates, I'm not really enthused by. I would like to see someone like Maxine Waters run. And even if she doesn't win, I would like to see her or someone like Cynthia McKinney. I think it's time for the sisters to start taking the White House over. Even as quiet as it's kept, and her birthday, it just left us his wife, President Obama's wife, Michelle. Remember, she was his boss. When they had the law firm there in Southside Chicago, and he gives her so much credit. I would like to see people like that for a change. In Liberia, we have a female and who's doing a fabulous job in Africa, and I think she was one of the first prime ministers of an African country. Liberia was the free slaves formed that union. So I think we need some fresh blood. All these other fuddy-duddies, like Hillary Clinton, she's had her chance. I think she's still shell-shocked from her loss to Obama, if you want my humble opinion.
He stone cold stunned her, Brother Omar. But thank you so much for your comments. We really appreciate that. We want to keep the panel moving along, but keep listening. And if anyone else has any comments or questions to make, please give us a call at 212-650-6903 or tweet us at BeHeard_radio. Selena, one last comment, then we're moving to the next person.
I just want to say, I agree. I guess, theoretically, with what Brother Omar just said, it would be nice to have someone who's under the radar, who like some fresh blood, kind of come into the Democratic primaries, even though they wouldn't have a chance. But I mean, just some more representation would be good.
Everyone talks about that, but you need to understand something. As someone who's worked in politics, believe it or not, it is very good to have someone in office who knows the ropes around the system. One of the things that really hurt Barack Obama was the fact that he was in office for 7 minutes and then ran for president. Maxine Waters and Michelle Obama and some of these other people were mentioning, they might sound good on paper, but if they don't have any idea how the system works or how to do the job, they're not going to make it. And also, can they campaign? Are they campaign ready? Can they do that?
Can they raise money?
Can they raise money?
Listen. My feeling is I want someone who can win because I do not want to see a Republican in the White House for the next 8 years. I mean, because it's almost a given. If you win the first time, it's more likely than not. Most presidents win a second term. Now, obviously, there's been some times where that is not the case. George H.W. Bush only served one term. There are other presidents that have only served one term. But generally speaking, if you win the first time, you'll usually win the second time. So whoever we elect, as far as I'm concerned, in 2016 is going to be the president for 8 years. And I want somebody that can win, somebody that can beat whoever the Republican nominee is going to be.
I'm with you on that one, Alyssa. So we're moving on to the next potential candidate. And if you live in New York City or New York State like us, you know that this person has been teasing around with it for quite some time. His father almost ran twice. We were just talking about his father a couple of weeks ago. Andrew Cuomo. And in case you don't know him, he is a 56. Selena made a face like, ew, Andrew Cuomo. He's a 56th governor of New York. He was first elected in 2010. He has a reputation and is known for passing same-sex marriage in New York State. He also is known as someone who is socially liberal but fiscally conservative. Alyssa?
Balancing the budget.
Balancing the budget, yes, something else that he's done in there. He's been one of the few governors in the last couple of years in New York who hasn't gotten into some kind of ethics scandal, even though that era may be running down to it and soon.
That's arguable because he dismantled the Moreland Commission, which was looking out for political corruption and kind of what set off the federal government and Preet Bharara's investigation, which has now led to the arrest of the Speaker Sheldon Silver and to some other people. And actually, I just heard now that there may be an indictment, or at least right now there's an open investigation into Dean Skelos, who is the minority leader of the Republican Party from Long Island. So he has been, one of the drawbacks is him canceling the commission. He essentially said that he didn't think it was worth it anymore, but yet the commission has exposed a lot of political corruption in New York, so there's a lot of blowback for why he would cancel the commission. But overall, I think he's very similar to Hillary in that they're both sort of moderate corporatists. But maybe, I don't know, maybe he's more of a populist.
No, he's a corporatist. I agree with you. But he has a good resume, and he's also from the Clinton fraternity, so to speak. He worked under the Clinton administration as the Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development from 1993 to 1997, and as Secretary of HUD from 1997 to 2001 under Bill Clinton. So this is something he's toyed around with, but a lot of people are saying if Hillary runs, he's not doing it. We're going to start with Jason again, talking about Cuomo. What are his chances?
I don't think he has anywhere else to go. You know, I think that he'll do it. What has he got to lose? What does he got to lose? Let's speak very honestly about it. The Clintons are a bygone power, couple. Yet they had their time of preeminence, and I think even a lot of their influence was seen up until the beginning of the Obama era. But if Obama showed us anything, you could definitely dislodge that power base if you know how to activate a new, novel, separate one. And I think that Cuomo, while he doesn't have that likability factor or that celebrity factor that Obama has, I think if anybody's going to bloodlet, Hillary, it's going to be him. He's got the connections. He's got the money. He definitely has the resume.
And he's a white man.
Okay, can't throw that away. Right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, though, the drawback is a lot of people, you'll hear this all the time, we don't want any more political legacies, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we don't want Clinton because we've had too many Clintons. We don't want Bush because we had too many Bushes. Like, the Cuomo's also comes from a political family. I mean, obviously, we just did an episode, if you missed it, a few weeks back when his father, Mario, passed away. We did, like, a 10-minute segment where we talked about him. And actually, I think his father was far more liberal than he is. But that aside, like, he's sort of like another political family candidate where his family has been involved in politics. And that's going to be a turnoff to a lot of people who see, the Clintons and the Cuomos and the Bushes as being the political status quo. And they want somebody who's not the political status quo.
Right. I just want to say, I mean, if you guys have the stats, then feel free to chime in. But didn't he barely win the governor's? Like,
no, not that he barely won.
Blew him out of the
In
wire.
the general, he killed it. He destroyed it. But it was the primaries.
Right.
Well, Zephyr Teachout took a big chunk of those votes in the primaries because of just a New York liberal-based disillusion with him. But even those votes were more so. Zephyr was a flavor of the week, I think, for a lot of those people who voted for her.
Well, even for us, like when we had her on the show. But I was just going to say that, like, what are his chances? Like, I don't know what his stats are like amongst New Yorkers and if he is really popular. But I just want to know how viable is he as a candidate?
He's an unknown outside of the
I don't think he has a very high national profile.
Yeah.
Not extremely.
But I
high.
think he has a name recognition because of his father.
Yeah.
And
That'll
as
help
we
him.
know, you ever see that movie where the guy runs on the dead guy ticket, like because they have the same name? I'll come up with what the movie is while we're on the quick break that we're about to go on.
How did you know we were going on a break, Alyssa?
But I'm just smart like that.
Are you?
All right, so we'll be right back on Let Your Voice Be Heard. Keep tuning in.
Thank you so much for that, Selena. And we are back on Let Your Voice Be Heard.
Woo.
We don't got baking soda. Selena, we got baking soda?
No, we do not.
That's right. We got
I
notebooks.
have baking soda. But
Oh.
I make bread.
Oh, you know what? Y'all need to stop with this. If you
And
ain't,
cookies.
Double entendre right there.
I'm in love with the cocoa.
Very true.
Cocoa Puffs, by the way, if you're wondering. So we are back on Let Your Voice Be Heard on 90.3 FM, WHCR, the voice of Harlem. And this is your favorite engineer / host / PC guy, Stanley Fritz. And we are talking about potential presidential candidates. I think Alyssa has some comments for us.
The movie that I was talking about, just so that people actually have a gist of it, it's called The Distinguished Gentleman. It's from 1992, and it's with Eddie Murphy. And he uses a dead congressman's old campaign materials to pretend to be this old dead white guy in order to get elected.
Hey,
whatever works.
Yeah,
It's a really, really funny movie. If you haven't seen it, like it's classic 1992 Eddie Murphy.
you get in here,
Nice.
you can fit in. So we talked about Joe Biden. We talked about, Andrew Cuomo. I want to talk about someone that a lot of people in New York City might not know about. And his name is Martin O'Malley, and he's a current governor of Maryland. He's been the governor since 2013, and he served as the co-chair of the Council of Governors for the Democratic Party. Prior to being governor, he served as the mayor of Baltimore from 1999 to 2007. So that's also something for him. If you like The Wire, that was all him. No, it wasn't. All right. So when asked in January 2012 if he thought about running for president, he said that he was very interested. He's been to New Hampshire. He's been to Iowa. So those are the places you usually go to test if you want to run for president. And he has a very seasoned, long history with politics and policies. So economics, in his first term as mayor, he increased taxes by $1.4 billion, including increases on corporate taxes, personal income taxes, sales taxes, and cigarette taxes. He also raised taxes on the highest income earners. He signed a bill that raised the gas tax annuity, and he signed a bill that required public school teachers to pay union dues. That required them to do that. So that's some very interesting things about him. This sounds like somebody who is a little bit more to the left than President Obama has seemed to be. President Martin O'Malley, what are his chances, Jason?
I really don't know because outside of his mayoralty in Baltimore and his governorship of Maryland, he's really not that well known. I mean, his public popularity outside of that particular region, even what you just stated about his taxation policies, I didn't know that much about. We're gonna just have to wait and see because I don't think he really has that recognition outside of that area.
And that's why I read all some of the things that he's done because I know a lot of people wouldn't know what he's about. So if you guys, if you don't know, don't be afraid to say that, and we'll talk about how that can affect them. Alyssa?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't really know anything about him at all. Aside from what you just said, which is, based on what you just said, he seems like somebody that I would be interested in learning more about. That being said, he also, if I'm not mistaken, lost his election in Maryland to a more conservative person. And I could be wrong about that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I was under the impression that he lost the Maryland election to somebody more conservative. And that makes me a little nervous as to whether or not he's can carry the moderates. I've said this before, but I think this is something that's important to remember. When we're talking about presidential elections, we're talking about 10 to 12% of the electorate that really matters, so to speak. I hate that that's the case.
That's okay.
But the way that our system is set up, essentially, you have basically 40% of people are so that 40 to 45% of people are so that are Republicans, they identify as Republicans, and they're going to vote for the person with the R behind their name no matter what. Then you have like 40 to 45% or so of people that, basically call themselves liberals, and they're Democrats, and they're going to vote for the Democrat no matter what. And then you have these 10 to 12% of people that are left in the middle that identify as independents, or at least or no party affiliated, or identify as either Republican or Democrat, but say that they are open to voting for one party, for voting for the opposite party than what they're registered at based on who the candidates are going to be. So when you're really talking about this election, you're talking about who can win the 12% of people. And even more so, who can win the 12% of people in the limited amount of swing states that are actually going to be in play? And that's really the person who you want to make sure gets the nomination, is the person who can win the 10 to 12% of people that live in the swing states that are really going to have the influence over the election. Now, we could debate all day long whether or not that should be the case, but currently that is the case. So we have to work within that framework.
Selena?
What's his name again?
Martin O'Malley.
This is how he could win. Only thing he has to do.
How he could win.
Take a picture holding Blue Ivy with Jay-Z and Beyonce, get a hashtag, get a campaign, and become the new celebrity president.
That would give him the gay vote and maybe the black woman vote.
And my vote. Right.
That's
and my vote. But the thing is I say that because his status is something like he has a great resume, right? It sounds like he's doing great things. I'm sure that he does have a following.
Go.
Right. Well, yeah. And I think that what he needs to do is to get, like you said, the more name recognition and more people in his corner. He would have to get, of course, more funding. He would have to do a lot of things, but I welcome him in. And if he could be from like besties with like Beyonce and Blue Ivy, then I feel like it would help his chances.
The one thing I do think that he has going for him, which, like I said, doesn't play well with the conservatives, but it will play well with sort of the Democratic base. And I am correct. He did lose the election last year to somebody far more conservative than him. But in 2011, he signed a law that would make certain undocumented immigrants eligible for in-state tuition on certain conditions. In 2012, he signed a law to legalize same-sex marriage in Maryland. Each law actually was challenged as part of voter referendums in 2012 and was upheld by the voting public. So obviously they were in favor of doing those things. But as I point out, he did lose last year to somebody more conservative. But actually, I shouldn't really say more conservative because the current governor of Maryland, if I'm not mistaken, is more of a libertarian conservative. He's not sort of the mainstream authoritarian type conservative that I think is going to be the type of candidate you're going to see putting up. And as we go along in this election cycle and get closer and closer, my views are going to change, and that's going to be based on also who the Republicans are running. Because, like I said, I want to see the candidate that's most viable to beat the Republican that's going to be the nominee. And we are not going to know that for a while, but we'll have a good sense of who's really leading in the polls as time progresses, and that may change my perspective on who I think should be the Democratic nominee.
So we're going to go to another person, and we've all talked about her already. We've all seen her speeches. We've all seen like her policy points. I've actually got a chance to meet her in person.
What? Now I'm hating.
Last year, remember?
Oh, yeah, I do remember.
That. So this is Elizabeth Warren, and she was supposed to be the chair of the Consumer Protection Financial Bureau, and the Republicans blocked it, so then she ran for Senate in Massachusetts, and now she's become very popular for the super hippie lefty liberals and also for college students who hate their student loan debt. And she really pushes a lot of populist issues, and she's a woman, and people are calling her the anti-Hillary. She's more to the left than Hillary is, and because of that, people want her to run for office. So far, she has said that she has no interest in doing that. But let's really talk about that. And of course, I'm throwing it to Jason, one, because that's the direction we've been going to. But two, I saw the face he made when I mentioned some of the stuff about Elizabeth Warren, and I saw that Illuminati Koch brother connection thing coming in.
No, I think you nailed it right on the head. Ideologically, she's the anti-Hillary. She may not have the national clout or the connections, like let's say a Cuomo, who I think will launch a far more formidable actual campaign on the ground. But as far as capturing the electorate, the populist view, she does that. She has that crack into a T. And to go back to something that you touched upon about, when we work together and you learn the political game, I always used to tell you guys, there's two types of campaigns you can run: issue-based campaign or personality campaign. And she's someone who can actually launch a successful personality campaign. Now, will that get her the actual, full nomination? I don't know, but it's clearly gotten her a senatorial seat. So, it's out there to see what can happen.
But that was not a strongly run campaign, by the way, but that's another conversation.
It was a special election versus, I don't want to get in too far into that. I really like Elizabeth Warren, but if, I think we should respect the fact. Now, everybody says they're not running and then they say they are running,
Right.
but I honestly think that she's much better off staying in the Senate right now. I think she's going to have way more impact in the Senate. I really, really like her. I don't think at this point, I think in the future, maybe next election cycle, she may be more of a viable candidate. I don't know. I don't necessarily think she's going to be able to carry that 10 to 12%, but I could be wrong because some of her populist ideas are popular with people that are no party affiliated and are very popular with the libertarian portion of the Republican wing because she's anti-cronyism and anti-banks, and that's, or anti-government subsidizing the banks. And cronyism is a big thing that the libertarian side of them are against. I mean, I think if we're going to focus on a real populist candidate who is viable and who has said he's very interested in running for president, then we should shift the focus to Bernie. I mean, he's my number one pick, and I would love to see him run for president.
Selena?
Definitely.
Elizabeth Warren?
Yeah, I mean, she's extremely likable. I think that what she does it well. Her platforms and fighting, and fighting for bank reform and fighting against income inequality. She has raised American consciousness on these issues, and she has definitely got a lot done. And I think that I appreciate what she's doing in the Senate. And I also realize that I don't think that she necessarily is going to run for president because she doesn't speak about any other issues. Like, I hardly ever hear her spoken about like foreign policy or like social issues. Like, she's like, look, I'm all about bank reform and inequality, and that's what I'm gonna stick to. And sometimes you have to love people like this, candidates like this, and political figures like this who are like, I'm gonna stay in my lane and I'm gonna fight until we get some changes here.
Thank you so much. We got to move on, guys. We're running out of time. I want to switch to Bernie Sanders real quick before the segment wraps up. So Bernie Sanders, as you guys know, he's technically he caucuses with the Democratic Party, but I think he's in a socialist or independent. I forget exactly which one it is. But he's been growing a lot of attention from especially young voters, and he's also talking about income inequality. He's very anti against the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, anti-drones, very popular. So and he's very interested in running for president as well. Alyssa mentioned that he's a favorite person at the moment, so I wanted to get your thoughts on his chances. Jason?
Once again, he has that popularity. Mm-hmm. He definitely seems to be favored by, I won't say libertarian, but far more liberal wing or segment of the population, or at least the Democratic Party, to my knowledge. However, I don't think that he can appeal nationally. I just don't see it with him. There's something, and bear with me, Alyssa, I know he's your favorite. There's just something in his demeanor and his ability to articulate and communicate. He's a very bright guy, don't get me wrong. It's just something about his demeanor that I think will be sort of anathema with people, popularly speaking. But that's my perception of him.
No, he's definitely a little quirky.
Yes,
I'll give you
that's
that.
the thing
Quirky
with
is
it.
like the right word for him. He's sort of quirky. I think, obviously, I think he's the most, if you want to talk about the populist candidate versus the more moderate candidates, you definitely have a divide between like the Bernie Warren wing and then like the Hillary Cuomo wing, and then Malley seems like he's kind of right in the middle of that mix. He seems like sort of a little more to the corporate side, but then a little more to the liberal side. I mean, I really like Bernie. I think he's a viable candidate. The one thing that I think is going to be the hardest for people to get over for him to win is his, like I said, he is an independent. He identifies as an independent, but he has in the past and even now is essentially a member of the Socialist Party, even though there's not really a violist Socialist Party. And I think too many people hear the word socialism. They're not informed. They don't really understand the kind of policies that he would put forth. And I think just that word is going to scare people.
Isn't that the gang that Barack Obama's in?
No.
No, that's called the fascist gang.
Ah, okay.
That's there's an opposite. There's a difference. We'll explain, later.
Right, and just for the sake of time, which I know we don't have a lot of, I love Bernie Sanders as well, and everything he's doing, but I don't think that he has a viable chance to really capture the hearts and minds of Americans across all political spectrums. I don't think that he can gauge everyone, but does he speak to progressives and people like me? Of course.
Yeah, and I won't give my comments on Bernie. I do like him. I think he's a really intelligent, bright guy, but I don't think that it's going to go much further than where he is at the moment. But guys, we do have to wrap this segment up. This isn't one of those segments where you need some kind of empowering closing statement. It's pretty cut and dry. You know who the people are that are running, who want to run for office besides Hillary Clinton, or at least you have an idea of them. So do some research and find out, because just because Hillary's hot right now doesn't mean she's the best option for president, and it also doesn't mean that she'll be the number one candidate or the last person standing at the end of the primaries. Remember that black guy? Yeah. So we'll be back, guys, after this quick break, and when we do return, we are talking about Obama's 529 tax plan, or a piece of it anyway.
Yeah. Thank you. Far too kind. Yeah. Ready?